We're here at Eagle Mine. We're about to take a tour.
There's actually gold in here.
We're gonna go into some old gold mining tunnels. There's one there.
Look at all the crates.
Let's go.
I take you to the restaurant. Now she needs to go to the restaurant.
So what do I do? I go? Okay.
So they can see what's.
So you're gonna.
Alright folks, I'm Robert. I'll be your tour guide today. What we come to here is the Eagle Mine. What's really interesting and rare about this tour is you go through two mines actually. We're going to enter the Eagle and we exit the high peak on the other side of the mountain. Now the reason it is rare is when World War I happened, they did the scrapping effort, which meant scrapping all the metal they could for the war itself. Well, the high peak mine actually got rid of their rock crusher, their ore carts. Miners got rid of tools because they were going off to war anyway. And ladies were known to get rid of pots and pans, okay, to the point where a lot of families would actually go ahead and cook together, you know, the kids and the wives that were still at home, you know, because one lady kept her pans, you know. Well, when the war was over, gold prices went really high again. Well, the High Peak mine still had a very profitable mine, but none of the stuff necessary to do the mining. So they made a deal with the Eagle to connect the two, and they basically incorporated at that point, okay. Now, what we go through during the first half of the tour is what's called a crosscut tunnel. That's because, excuse me, the veins of the quartz stone, like the stuff on the wall, which I call dirty quartz, okay, with the orange tint, that's actually rust from the iron that's in the rock. The veins run east and west. That's because we are at the end of the Elsinore earthquake fault. It's a tributary to the San Andreas. Okay, so whatever direction your local earthquake fault runs are the directions your veins are going to run. Now the way that you get a vein is I have this soft stone here. Almost looks like it's just soil, but it's actually a really soft stone. That's actually Julian schist. That was the ocean floor about 250 million years ago. So as the mountains come rising up out of the oceans, you get cracks, fissures in it, and then the lava magma comes shooting through, creating the gold-bearing veins of quartz stone at that point. Okay. Now gold was originally found in this area by a freed slave from Kentucky named Fred Coleman. He had homesteaded down in Wynola, where I live, 3 miles back down the highway. And he was on the other side of the valley, watering his horse while grazing his cattle, and he ended up looking down the creek and seeing glitter. Well, Fred had mining experience, so he actually pulled out a frying pan, a skillet, and went ahead and started panning. Well, he over-exaggerated how much he found, and actually created the Southern California gold rush. About 2 weeks later, 150 miners come down on a steamboat called the Oriflame from Northern California. In fact, we have a canyon right outside of town named after it. Okay? They come down thinking they'll strike it rich, be the first ones here, right? Well, they're used to placer mining, and placer mining is panning for gold. Any of us from Southern California or the Southwest know we're always in a drought. So the creeks around here are very seasonal if they run at all. Okay? So, half of them turned tail and went back north. The half that stayed did get into hard rock mining, but also agriculture. And that's why Julian didn't become one of those boom towns and ghost towns like a lot of other places did. Okay? That's why we survived. Julian is actually more famous for pears long before apples. And then our beef. Everyone was used to beef from like the Midwest and stuff. Flatland, lazy beef, okay, at that point. Here, you know, the cows have to walk up and down hills and it's a higher altitude, so it becomes very lean, very good meat. We are known to ship beef all the way over to Arizona, down into Baja, up Northern California, stuff like that, okay. Now, let's see. Julian was actually founded by the Bailey family. Ex-Confederate soldiers from Georgia. You can tell by your dates, it's not long after America's Civil War was over. They headed west looking for work. They had heard about this guy, Mr. Horton, as in Horton Plaza, downtown, and he was building a railroad at the time from San Diego north, okay? So they thought they'd be able to get work there. Well, what ended up happening was this is a union state. We don't hire Southerners here, okay? So he told them to kick rocks. They ended up heading north. They got to what's now Temecula, California. They met a guy on the side of the road that was selling bacon and baked beans, right? He told them about this area and offered them a ride up. But he did warn them. He's like, you Southern boys got to be careful. You know, it's a non-segregated area. And they didn't know what he meant, really. But at that point, at that time, we already had, of course, Mexicans and Indians living here. Also Orientals and blacks. And then every other nation you can think of all living here at that time. Okay? So they get here, they see how beautiful and prosperous the land is. And they go ahead and invite their family to come out. Their family comes out, they decide to set up a true town. Okay? Well, when they went to the county recorder to go ahead and turn in the paperwork, he asked him what they were going to name it. no one had actually thought about it. So one of them jokingly said, let's name it after cousin Mike. He's the most handsome one in the family. And sure enough, it stuck, Mike Julian. There's a picture of him in the office in the gift shop. You guys can check it out when we're done. Okay, you can tell me if he's cute or not. He's got the big salt and pepper goatee, waxed back hair. Just ask him, okay? Now, when you show up to work in 1870, you got your cool cowboy hat, right? Sardine can and candle. Sardine can helps reflect the light, of course. It would often have a piece of tin or mirror in it, okay? But it also keeps your felt hat from catching on fire, so you don't turn into a candle yourself, okay? Now, as we head through, the first half of the tunnels isn't bad as far as height is concerned. That's because this side was worked a lot longer than upstairs, okay? Once they combined the two mines. Upstairs, though, you gotta remember, they have 2 degrees year-round. The only time you'll see it warmer is upstairs when we get a Santa Ana, and you might see it jump up to like 70 upstairs. And then sometimes when you get a cold storm off the desert, you might see it actually get down to like mid-50s upstairs. I like that shirt, by the way. That's Thank you. All right, if you guys glance above us, you'll see the first quartz vein in the Eagle mine. It is called the Eagle vein, of course. Okay, now it does stretch back that direction to the end of the claim, about 250 feet back in that tunnel. And then that tunnel actually dives down to tunnels down below. Okay, the tunnel on this side looks like it's nice and short, and you guys will see it as you walk by. Okay, that's because you want to work smarter, not harder. So instead of wasting time taking the debris out of the mine, you would backfill wherever possible. Okay, you will notice, like back when we get to the shaft, you'll see a big wooden dam that's all backfill back in there. Okay. Also during the tour, you're going to notice that we slightly walk uphill, and upstairs we slightly walk downhill. Again, working smarter, not harder. When an ore cart is full, it weighs roughly about 2,800 pounds. You have 800 pounds of cart plus the 1 ton of rock in it. So you want gravity to do the work for you. Bring it downhill full, push it uphill empty. These mines were all man-powered. Okay. Often in movies you see them using animals, donkeys, burros, horses, even dogs to pull carts. That was done in what I call wet mines. So Alaska, Canada, Colorado, Northern California, where they have so much groundwater coming down into them, they're muddy. And again, we live in Southern California. We're always in a drought. So these are never going to get muddy. The only time you do see them moist is we wet them down once in a while, especially before big school groups, to keep down on the dust, of course. Now in the pictures you guys walk by, or some of you guys can see now, the little guy in there, that's actually Billy Moran. He's the founder of the Eagle Mine, okay? That's his little miner's shack, burnt down in 1915. It was located halfway down Banner Grade. That's the road that runs east out of Julian towards the desert. It is the windiest road in North America and the shortest distance. 120 curves in 6 miles. People like to say, no, the road to Hana in Hawaii is windier. That only averages 5.7 curves per mile. And people are like, oh, I get car sick on that. I can't imagine going down Banner. But I know people who go up and down it every day. So now, down below that is your lunch pail. When you worked here back then, you worked 6 days a week, 12 hours a day for $1.50. That doesn't seem like much, but the average labor wage back then was 50 cents a day. So you're making 3 times as much. That would be like me paying one of my laborers like $450 a day at this point. I'd go broke, trust me. Okay? Now, you ate in here. It's going to be a hearty meal. Beef stew, chicken and dumplings, chili and cornbread, beans and rice. Again, this is such a diverse area. Every meal you could get from a different country all week long. You know what I mean? Be like living in LA or downtown or somewhere like that, okay? Now, you ate in here, but when you guys walk by, or some of you guys can see down the short tunnel, you'll see some buckets in there, okay? Those are honey pots. That's for doing your business. You know what I mean? The only time you actually left the mine during the day was to take an ore cart out, and there was already one to come right back in. You're expected to bring out anywhere from 7 to 10 tons during your shift, okay? Now, there's another name that I like. Of course, they're chamber pots in Europe, right? But I listened to Coast at Night, and George Norrie went through a whole list of them. And one night, the one that stuck with me being a dude was Thunder Bucket. You got to figure with that type of diet, you know what I mean? So we're going to continue on. Watch your heads. We will actually be entering the High Peak Mine. So when we get to that next tunnel that you'll see on your left, from there until we get to the shaft is where they connected the 2 mines after World War I. Okay? So let's continue on.
is cool.
This
We're under the mountain, Austin. Isn't that crazy?
This is kind of scary.
Oh, it's cold. Oh, look at that. It's closed.
None of this stuff was used in the mine. It's just for storage.
Keep going. Yeah, support so it won't cave in. Go, Jay. Oh, look at the veins, Austin. The cool colors. Go over there.
Part T-Rex, huh? You guys can actually go ahead. Just go in the next archway.
Right here. Oh, look at that.
That piece of wood was so wiggly. Accidentally.
They can see.
Come on in. We end up leaving this way anyway.
Oh, we're going to go in that
Everyone
one.
always thinks we go that way, but we don't go that way. Except for I had a big group earlier, so I let some of them go that way.
Go over
So
there.
you're going to be my helper, okay? Yeah. Okay. Well, stand over here, and I'll give you directions in a moment.
So it was a mechanical hoist.
All right, folks, this large machine in front of me, this is the hoist. All it is a large crane, okay? You have a wire around the spool right there, connecting. You can actually look back at the shaft and see one of the original timbers still sitting in there. And it would have been like a tripod with a large pulley like on the table on it, and the wire connected to that and then to the bucket, okay? This thing was manufactured in San Francisco in 1896, shipped down here and then put together in here. It has not left the mine in the 122 years, okay? It actually still runs to this day. I've actually seen it run. It'll run off of any natural gas at this point. It is only 10 horsepower. I have chainsaws with more horsepower than this thing has. Also, it only runs at 550 RPM, basically half of what a car idles at, okay? Let's see, my little helper. See this wire right here? We pull down. Never get used to it. Round one. Thank you. That's our form of communication in mines, okay? So right here I have the standard California shaft bell signal system. So let's say we need the bucket lowered cautiously to us. We'd ring our bell on whatever level we're on, 3 times, 2 times, and then whatever level. The hoistman does not need to turn on the machine to lower the bucket. The 2 handles on here are just like a manual transmission. One is a clutch and one is a brake. Disengage the brake with the clutch, lower the bucket down to that level, stop it. The way that he knew was the markings on the Navy ship. There's 17 of them, okay? So just use your railings, take your time, don't follow the person in front of you too close. You don't want to catch a heel in your face, trust me. Okay, that's why I take the lead. Let's go this way.
My Jay.
Come on. Go. Go, go, go.
I bet every time the bicycle goes up, they get
fact, when we leave, there's an ore cart out there, but you'll see a little wooden thing with wheels on it. My buddy and I, before they started backfilling more, when I first started working here, we'd push each other from here all the way out of the mine on it. We called it our miner skateboard. And I don't skate, so.
So sorry if you explained it, but what caused them to start? Because I noticed all over the place, they just started digging in this way or digging up that way.
Just
Was it
chasing
that they
veins.
find a vein?
Yeah, chaseable veins.
Okay.
You know, sometimes, you know, what'll happen is you might, first 30 feet of the vein, you might find 10 ounces per ton, you know? And then all of a sudden it'll dwindle down to 1 ounce per ton. That is still a chaseable
1 ounce per what?
1 ounce per ton.
Which is the minimum required to
Minimum.
be chasing, kind of?
Yeah,
Okay.
But even if you find less, let's say, because every so often you're bringing samples out to the assayer, and he'll tell you if it's still worth chasing. So, let's say you even get to one part where there's only half an ounce, you might have just hit that little void, so you're still going to keep going a little bit
Yeah.
further. Because you might, on the other side, get 50, you know, 50 ounces.
We are in the mine. Is that the tunnel? Yeah.
I thought I was gonna hit that.
Keep walking.
I don't. I barely fit.
Here's another turnout. Jump hole.
Oh, I thought that was going down my feet. We're under a mountain. This is amazing. So we walked for 1,000 miles? 1,000 feet, I mean?
Yeah.
Miles. Oh, I'm getting so close to getting my head. There we go. The light at the end of the tunnel. I made it. We're under that.
I stopped doing that a while. You'll get on tours and you'll already have like 25. By the end, all of a sudden you're like 34. You're like, how did that happen? Or like I said, you get to the end of the tour and all of a sudden you see someone and it's like, where'd you come from? All right, folks, we come to the exit, but you're actually at the attic for the High Peak Mine. Again, we go through